Hello everyone and welcome back to Astrology and Magic. This is season 3 episode 2 and I want to say at the very beginning I'm really sorry that I dropped season 3 episode 1 not with the awareness that I was going to be gone for a couple of weeks, but just dropped it and was like, I'll talk to you guys soon. Ridiculous. So apologies, but here we are. I'm back. I went on vacation for a little bit and I had to do some life searching, some soul searching, just a tad, just a little bit. I had to reconnect with myself, get back to my earthen being. And I'm grateful for that. So things have changed a little bit internally. Not too much. I feel a little bit more free, but enough about me, all right? Thanks for being here. Thanks for your patience. Things are going to become a little bit more consistent. Thank the gods, okay? Thankfully, things are going to be more consistent coming into the future. There is going to be a pretty large Coven update with this email. So if you are not yet signed up for the Substack emails and notifications for when the podcasts and other blogs come out, and you want to go and sign up, I fully welcome it. The update this time with the Coven is going to be about training. We have some training to do. We have some things to get done. And then just kind of general housekeeping stuff. There's going to be a little bit more information. That's going to be over on Substack. If you want to join the Coven online workspace, then it is going to be over on Element. That link is going to be down below. Beautiful. Okay, so that's going to be the kind of brief update at the beginning. If you are interested in becoming a financial supporter of me, that's also going to be available over on Substack. And for those of you who are a supporter already, those of you who already offer your money to me, I want to say a big shout out to you and a big thanks, because I have been away and I did not realize that it was going to be this long until I got back to the internet. So thank you for your patience. You know what? I have to be patient with myself these days too. And I think that that's all right. So thank you for allowing me to be a human. And that's what it is. I hope everybody's doing good. Now that we're back into it, just a reminder about kind of the new format of the show. We have the astrology breakdowns and then we have the magic breakdowns. And we're still at Pluto Retrograde. We have some more transits coming up. We have more stuff to work on in the coming episodes. But this one is going to be the magic of Pluto Retrograde. So for those of you who have been sitting and patiently waiting, here we go. So one of the things about Pluto Retrograde, and I mentioned this in the previous podcast, is that it is about unbinding. We're getting out of contracts, we're getting out, which thankfully, honestly. So to understand the unbindings with Pluto and Aquarius on a more magical level, we have to talk a little bit more about Aquarius itself. Kind of like what Aquarius is, because every single astrology sign has a different element attached to it, right? It's a different representation of a different element. And with that different element, it's very interesting. It's a different form of that element. So for example, if we look at the water signs, Scorpio is going to be a different kind of water than Pisces, is going to be a different kind of water than Cancer. They take on different forms, they take on different relations to that element. And so if we're looking at the air signs, which Aquarius is an air sign, they usually start off more simple when we are in the early houses. So Gemini is going to be simple wins between you and me. What are we talking about? How are we talking about it? We're sharing air together. When we share air, that's Gemini, okay? Then we have Libra, and that's going to be the spirits involved in the sharing of the air. It goes up into the sky and it comes back down. Even when you look at the sign of Libra, there's like a wind current, on the top of the sign, on the top of the glyph, and it goes back up into the sky, but there's like a consistent layer on the bottom. Like we're still sharing air together, but the spirits become involved. It's the higher becomes involved. And so when you get to Aquarius, you're talking about the higher of the higher. Aquarius, the higher of the higher. Okay, well, yeah, let's talk about it. Aquarius has to do with the primordial winds, okay? It also has to do with, we're going to talk a little bit more about the primordial beings. That's a question that I've been getting like pretty consistently recently, is like, could you talk more about that, or can we know more about that? And yeah, for sure, we can talk about it. I do want to introduce the form of wind first, but just know that we're going to get there in this episode, which thankfully, you know what? I feel like it's not something that I hear talked about very often within, online community spaces. So I think it'll be an interesting kind of topic. Yeah, cool. So moving back into, so Aquarius, the air that's shared with Aquarius is the primordial winds. It's also considered the ozone layer. So it's the layer of air that's way, way out there. when people are like, Aquarius is like the aliens, it's like the weirdos. Yeah, that's because it's the farthest thing away from the Earth's surface. It's the farthest thing away. You're talking about we can reach all the way up there. Okay, you know, which also means it has to do with the witching hour, because if you don't know, now you do. The witching hour is considered to be one of the most kind of like hyperactive spiritual times, like from 3 to 4 a.m. And it's because that's when the air of the ozone layer is closest to the Earth, with the way the temperature works and all the sciencey stuff that goes behind it. Is when, which we don't really talk about a whole bunch of science stuff in here, but did you know, I'm going to throw this footnote in here because I think it's really interesting, okay? The new format of the podcast gives me a little bit more room to breathe with some weird facts, and this, I've been thinking about this a lot. Speaking of the primordial beings, speaking of the primordial fates, okay, the primordial winds, love you fate, let's talk a little bit about it. Modern science was born at the same era that people started hunting the witches. Coincidence? I think not. I think that magic had to live on. I think magic had to find another way for us to be able to communicate with it. So it was like, okay, science. Okay, here you go, modern science. Okay, we're gonna birth these systems of atomic structure and psychoanalyzing. There's a lot of different things, right? And before that, I think it's really interesting too on a magical level, because before that, okay, spirit, bring it through. Before that, it was very like intuitive. It was based on nature, and it was, which it still is. Science is a discovery of nature. You know, we look at nature, we observe it, we understand it, we learn about it, we break it down, and we have the structure, we have the system, and it's very, very detailed with modern science. Whereas before modern science, okay, when it was the practitioners who were in the magic work instead of the modern science being in the magic work, which we're going to talk about, you know, what's going on right now. But first, okay, let's roll it back again. Roll the credits. Not yet. Roll it back. Okay, so going back to the practitioners, like if you think about that form of magic and like what was going on around that time and in that era, it was still really connected to the earth and the earth. And, you know, there wasn't a lot of like all these super advancements with technology that we have these days. And like that didn't really exist back then. There was a lot of changes that were going on between societies, but at the same time, like it was still very primal. It was still very, very, you know, earthen. There was still technology. I'm not, you know, dogging on the people who were alive in the 14th, 15th, 16th century. But, you know, it was the 14th, 15th, 16th century. So it was several hundred years ago. Weird to think about, but, you know, that's where we were. And so we have the witches being hunted. And I think the other interesting thing, okay, because Spirit has had me on all three of these, right? Spirit's had me on all three. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we have the birth of modern science between the 14th and the 16th century. We have the hunting of the witches between the 14th and the 16th century. We also have people's will starting to be taken over during the 14th and the 16th century. People using other people's will to get things done during the 14th and the 16th century. Now, do I agree with that? No. And let's look at kind of what's happening today. Let's look at what's happening, going on within our world right now, right? We've got, wow, why is this coming up? Listen, Aquarius we know it's important, but we don't know why yet. This is going to be important probably later in the show. I don't know why. This is not on my notes, but it's something that we're going to talk about today, apparently. So if we look at what's going on right now, like we have free will has become, you know, right on. Yeah. And then we have the witches are coming back. Hello, look at you. Look at us. Look at this. Okay, I don't know if you consider yourself a witch, but here we are. The lot of us, all right? So we got the witches coming back and coming back in droves, okay? Not just coming back because they've been, you know, coming back for a while. But now it's like, we're here. And that's strange to me. It's kind of cool. I'm really grateful to be alive right now. And then, you know, I'm grateful to be alive. And I'm grateful to be alive right now. What a crazy time we live in. And then we have modern science. Modern science, because I don't know about you, but I know about me. And the spirits I work with are like, study modern science. You got to do it. You got to study it. Because if you study it, you understand more of us. That was a really horrible interpretation of what the gods sound like. But you know what? Yeah, the different voice will just, it's like a highlighter, you know? Okay, so just consider it like that. Anyways, moving back into it. Yeah, we have this like it's like a birth of a new era. It really is, in my opinion, when people talk about, like the age of Aquarius or the age of, oh, we have a cat visitor. Hi to you too, Bubba. When people talk about the age of Aquarius or the age of like the new age, which, I have my own thoughts and opinions on like the verbiage of new ageism. But we're not necessarily here for that right now. We could talk about that maybe another time. Maybe I'll bring it up in the blog at some point. I haven't thought about it in a while. I need to explain what just happened because Magick is crazy, okay? And I want to explain it. That's crazy. Because I just had like the cat walked over and I try to keep him off of my keyboard as much as possible, but he's a cat, Sometimes it just doesn't work out like that. And what did I just say? This is a really good example. This is a really, 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 really good example of how Aquarius magic works. Okay, the primordial beings, being able to predict things before, being before your time, being before the time that the thing happens. Yeah, being before your time, okay. Being premonitory on accident is a lot about Aquarius too. It's like the trendsetters, the trend makers, the trend bringers, the people who make the trends, the people. It's not just about trends though, because that has a lot to do with fame. So when we're talking about fame, like that's a thing. But trends in the sense that like the trends that society is going through, not just like the trends of fashion or the trends of like digital social media stuff, but like the trends of politics and the trends of how we agree with each other. And like those sorts of trends are also Aquarius related. The trends of what is acceptable and what is not, because what the heck is a social standard if not just agreed upon rules that we make up with each other, right? So, and sometimes those rules need to be there and sometimes we need to disagree with them. There's a lot of discourse around that, okay? But this is a really great example. We're not going to get too deep into that because we could, but we're not going to in this episode. But this is crazy. My cat walked on my computer. And you remember I was just saying how when I like did the voice for the gods, right? And I was like, it's just a different, like I put a highlighter on it. That's what that was. That's what that voice was. I just want to put a highlighter on it so that I could, the voice of the gods. So my cat walks on my keyboard just now and brings up, I keep my, Apple Notes, right? Okay, well, I've got a MacBook. I'm looking at getting a different computer soon, but right now, that's what I'm working on. And I'm really excited for the new computer, actually, because this one has not been able to keep up with my video editing, and it's honestly been kind of frustrating, but we need the upgrades over here. Anyways, moving on. So, just thoughts. It's going to happen soon. And I'm really excited because speaking about technology, okay, oh my goodness, this is like a complete left turn, but we're going to make it back onto the trail, I promise you. We're going to make it back. So one of the things about Aquarius is technology and having to do with technology and like it influences technology, right? So one of the things I've been thinking about, because I do need a new computer, is making sure that with the age of technology that we're in, with all the scams and all the just like crazy wild hacking and all the just stuff, right? I've been looking into different systems of operation and people who build computers, and I'm pretty sure that I found something that doesn't have, I want to call it a secret, but it's not really a secret. There's processors in our phones with like major brands and major companies where they're always on. It doesn't matter if there's a dead battery. It doesn't matter if the computer is shut down and closed. It doesn't matter. They're always on, and they're always listening. And that bothers me, okay? Listen, I like my privacy. I like to talk to the spirits, and don't eavesdrop on me, Leave me alone. Leave me alone. You don't know who could be in there listening. Let me not get I don't get paranoid about it, but it's just a thought. Like, it's just the reality that we live in this time. It's the age of surveillance. There's cameras everywhere, which is, sometimes helpful, sometimes not. It just, whatever. Again, that's what I mean. Like, is socially agreeable. Do you agree with it? Do you not agree with it? Are you around people who agree with it, or are you not? That's going to be the, like, social agreement part of Aquarius. But back to the keyboard, okay? So, explanations for a reason. This is a teaching moment, a learning moment for us. So my cat walks on the keyboard and he brings up a note, because I keep my podcast notes in the notes on the MacBook. It's where I write everything down. It's crazy. It's a big system. I've got thousands of notes on here. Moving on though. he scrolled. I don't even know how he did it. Sometimes the cat, when he walks on the keyboard, he does bring up like random things that would make sense in magical thing. You know, like it's like clearly that did not happen on accident. And this time of this happening is very clearly this is not on accident. This is one of the most prominent times. This is very purposeful. So he steps on the keyboard. He scrolls down on the list to something from May 7th of 2023. That's over 2 years ago. I was at a very different point in my life. That was before I really started the podcast. I think at that point I'd started the blog and I like just started YouTube. But that was a long time ago. That was like forever ago. The videos I made back then, I'm pretty sure I deleted them off of YouTube. Like it was a while ago in my career of being on the internet. Crazy, because for the most part, I'm just on TikTok. For those of you who found me through TikTok, shout out to you. Thanks for being here. Crazy. And for those of you who found me through whatever you're listening on now, cool. Thanks for being here too. You know, yeah. But it's from back then, and I made a note because I put like a screensaver on my phone that had some words on it and some goals. And I'm gonna read this to you. I'm gonna read this to you because it feels like it's necessary. The highlighter part, let me go back to that. You know how when you like, if you're familiar with MacBook and notes, when you highlight stuff, it's yellow. So the cat highlighted everything. And what was I talking about? The God's voice, right? And I highlighted it. And so when this happened, I was like, clearly the gods are speaking to me because, well, thank you, Spirit. Crazy. So not only did my cat click on a note from May 7th, 2023 at 3:58 p.m. Crazy. He also highlighted the whole thing that was on here. And when it first came up, I didn't see the goals that are at the bottom. I just saw what it says. It says, you are worthy of all you desire. A badass. You're capable, you're safe, you're worthy, and you are loved. And that felt it was really important for me. I definitely cried. I cut that out. Editing, thanks. I edited that out, but I wanted to read that to you because you're worthy too. You're worthy of what you desire. You're a badass, okay? To be able to go, that's the part of Aquarius that I love, okay? To be an inventor, to be a dreamer, to be a creator, to be an artist, you're supposed to be different than society. You're supposed to be a little wacko, a little weirdo. You're supposed to be a little out there. Aquarius is out there, okay? You're supposed to be a little out there. And by being a little out there, we advance society. And one of the things that is really hard about Aquarius, if you have Aquarius placements or you're familiar with Aquarius energy, being different, there's always, because we've been talking about social agreeances and people who make social contracts with, you know, the people they're around, the society they live in. You as an Aquarius person, okay, if you're tapping into this energy as the inventor, as the dreamer, as the creator, you're the one doing things differently, which means there is going to be resistance. People might disagree with you. People might not support you. People might say, that's kind of strange. I don't know if I like that. It's not normal. But what is normal? The reason you're doing things differently is because normal isn't normal for you. It doesn't work for you. It's not true for you, right? Crazy. Sometimes also with Aquarius energy, this is one of the things I like about time magic, okay? Shout out time magic. I talk about that occasionally on my page, but we're going to talk about a little blip of it right now because Saturn is one of the other rulers of Aquarius. It's Uranus and Saturn. And Saturn has to do with time. It has to do with time magic and it has to do with time work. There's a lot of, we're not going to get too into the time magic. There's a whole subcategory of magic and nuance that is like deserving of several different episodes if we're talking about time magic. However, okay, Uranus, if you go into time magic stuff, Saturn and Uranus together, Uranus is creative. We have to remember within the story of astrology that Uranus is the parent of Saturn. Saturn, this being that is of time and of gravity and of structure and of order, has a parent. That serious father being has a parent. Crazy. Okay. Yeah, we all come from somewhere, including the gods. Wild thought. So Uranus in our astrological systems usually is going to represent the primordial beings, that which came before time, order, and structure, that which came before the world was created, that which came before, including when we look at time magic, okay, that which comes before. So if you're looking at, I got this idea. I can see how society would look. I can see this thing that's way in the future. I might not know how I'm going to get there. I might not know yet. Who, what, when, where, how, why. I don't know yet. But I can see it. I see the vision. I see the landing, I see the grounding, and I'm going to go and invent that. I'm going to go and create that. I'm going to do that. And by doing that, I'm going to, yes, meet resistance. There's probably going to be people who disagree with me. Things might not be easy, but guess what? Society is going to change. And whether or not I make it to that landing point doesn't really matter, in my opinion, with Aquarius. Sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't. It just kind of depends on is it the journey that's important or is it the landing part that's important? And sometimes with Aquarius, the authority is above us. Think about if you've ever been in a group where people have kind of lost their minds a little bit, okay? You ever been in a group where it's just like the madness of the, what do they call it? There's a name for it. Not mad cow fever, but like group rage, group where it's like a group of people, like a big group of people. And they just all are like, really angry or like really like determined for something, but like it's almost like they've lost their sense of self. They've lost their sense. Sometimes the authority is above us. Sometimes we, and that's why in my practice and in my opinion, being a spiritual practitioner is so important because there's a lot of reasons, this being one of them. There's so many, more than I could put on a list, okay? But this being one of them, especially in this age, the quote unquote age of Aquarius, or being with this Pluto and Aquarius transit, is because you've got to know, at least for me, I'm going to speak on a personal level for this one. At least for me, I've got to know, is the authority within my hands? Is the authority within the people around me? Or is the authority within the spirits that are above us? Have we already created something and now the gods are intervening? Have we already done something and now the highest spirit, the primordial beings, are going to step in on our behalf? And we just have to be in the ride and make our decisions based on that. Sometimes the decisions are bigger than us. Sometimes our authority, spirit. I've mentioned this in the spaces before. Like spirit gives us a lot of authority. You wake up every day. You get to decide. How are you going to do things? When are you going to do things? What are you going to do? There's a lot of authority spirit's given us. Talking about free will earlier. There's a lot of authority spirit's given us. Thank God, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the authority that has been given. That's the truth. I'm grateful for your authority. I'm grateful for my authority. I'm grateful for the authority of the human beings on this earth. Do I always agree with what other humans do? No, that's human nature. I think that there's a lot of human beings who probably don't think about what they're doing before they do it. And you know what? That's all right. We learn. We learn and discern. But there are a lot of human beings who think about what they do. There are a lot of human beings who are kind and gentle and caring and loving. Okay? So, beautiful. So we have a lot of authority. And sometimes the authority is just bigger than us. Sometimes there are things, talking about those 14th, 15th, 16th century sort of time dates, right? Sometimes there are things that are bigger than us that we're going through as a society, that we're going through as a world. Sometimes there are chapters talking about the 14th, 15th, 16th century. We're seeing those things start to become undone, mingled, mixed, talking about free will, other people using other people's will to get things done, right? There's this magical revival happening. Magic is coming to the surface. The witches and the warlocks and the practitioners are coming out of the woodwork, really. Hello, welcome. coming out of the woodwork and being here. And then you have modern science, which has reached a point of quantum. But that's crazy to me. Like, there's been so much advancement. And now all of those things, like, there are people who practice magic who are involved in technological spaces. Crazy. There are people who practice magic who are involved in modern science. You know how many witches are nurses? Wild, okay? You know how many witches are doctors? I don't know exactly, but there are people who believe in the gods and also practice science. Wild. Cool. That's awesome. I love that. I love it. I really do. I love it. Thanks for you. If you are true in that, that's great. So yeah, things are coming to a close with this big chapter of those three different things, those three fates being woven. And we'll talk more about that maybe on another time, another level. We're not here necessarily to do like a reading about it today, but it's interesting. And I think it's interesting. So the fact that this got highlighted, that's crazy. So that's what I wanted to share with you. We took a complete left turn. Let me go back to which with Aquarius, us talking about Aquarius, I'm not surprised, okay? The unpredictableness of Aquarius, the chaoticness of Aquarius, that's a great example, okay? Where it's like things fell into line right? But it was by design, you know, but it was also like, there's no way I could have predicted that we were going to talk about those things or that that was going to happen. Aquarius. Crazy. Crazy. Crazy, crazy. It is crazy, crazy, honestly. That's a wild thing. So Aquarius, the thing that we were talking about before we got onto all of those examples of how Aquarius magic actually works. One of the things we were talking about is the Aquarius air, how it's the air that is like way, way out there, right? The other thing that I equate Aquarius energy, Aquarius air to is if you've ever been in nature, somewhere where the nature spirits are alive and well, where they're able to reach out to you, where you're able to commune with them fairly easily, right? Not just sitting at home or in a big building. Granted, the nature spirits can still reach us there, but there's a lot of human will that has created our buildings and created our, structures, cityscapes, stuff like that. So like, if you're out in nature and you're around the trees and the lakes and the rivers and, the ocean possibly too, it's like the winds that come through when you're in nature, and you can tell, the spirit of the wind is moving. Love you, the wind. The spirit of the wind is moving. Love you, wind. Love you, air. If that's part of Aquarius magic. It's like, you just know. Again, you might not know why yet. You might not know exactly what they're saying, but That's the Aquarius winds. That's how I relate in the spiritual realms that I work in. That's how I relate the Aquarius winds. It's like, oh, the winds are blowing. They're saying something. Oh, I can hear the winds talking today. Or the winds are different today. That's the primordial beings in my practice, in my opinion, in my space, and then kind of like my visual point. That would be the primordial beings coming in to move things around again. We gotta have a conversation. We gotta talk about some things. The wind's coming through to knock tree branches down. The wind's coming through to bring a storm. The winds coming through are strong, And if you've noticed over the previous couple years, the winds are changing. Okay, Aquarius, the winds are changing. So that's a part of this. So what does being bound up by the wind even actually look like? One of the things that because it has to do with the primordial beings, Aquarius has to do with the primordial beings. Let's look at the word primordial. Primal, like the animals, like nature. Crazy. Okay, so one of the things that I like to look at when I'm looking at the primordial sort of energy, we're animals. We are animals, okay? And every single one of us is a shapeshifter. That's just a part of our nature. We shapeshift, we change, we look different. Glamour magic is a part of that sometimes too. So, one of the things about being bound up by the wind, if you look at in your chart, if you look at Scorpio, your Scorpio placements, the house that it's in, your Mars and your Pluto ruling that Scorpio space, and then 8th house, and anything 8th house, the ruler of it, placements there, these are going to be those placements in that space in your chart. Those are going to be what's more kind of related to this magic. You can kind of figure out how it might show up. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody. But what other people do you shapeshift into, and how do you do it? How does that happen? Because if you notice, like, for example, right now, Saturn is still in Aries. So let's use the mind as an example. Like, if you have a lot of conversations with another person and you kind of pick up on their vernacular and the way that they speak, and you kind of pick, that's a big word. You kind of pick up on the way that they think too, then, because you're communicating with them, you're talking with them, right? So one of the things that could happen is that now all of a sudden those thought patterns become related to you. That means more than likely you're going to be in an exchange with that person because you're thinking in the same pattern that they are, because you've had a lot of conversations, you've related a lot, okay? We see that a lot with friends, like people who are really close with each other. We see that a lot with partners, like if you've been with someone for a while, you pick up on their habits, you pick up on having the same kind of life, So if you notice that you have similar thinking patterns to another person and you kind of like are aware of it, okay, I'm picking this up, I'm picking this out, I can see that I think like this other person. I could see them think like this. They put things together like this. I've seen it in the way that they talk to me. I've seen it in the way they solve problems. I've seen it, and now I'm doing it. That can indicate that you are in an exchange. So it's like your mind and thought pattern primally has adapted to being with this other person around you. And that primal instinct of adaptation, okay, now that binding happens through the wind. The wind has bound us. The air that we share, remember I was talking about Gemini, okay, the air that we share with each other, because they just get more complicated. Like I said earlier, they just get more complicated the further that you get into the astrological wheel. So it's the air that we share with each other. It's the air that we share with our spirits and our practice and like with commerce and business and partners. And then we have the air of society. That's going to be Aquarius. The air of society, the air of the primordial being. So part of Pluto retrograde, again, is getting out of those bindings. So say that you have a conversation, you notice these thought patterns. We're going to use this as an example. This is a pretty good example. You notice these thought patterns that you've primally adapted to these other beings, right? One of the things that you could ask the air to help you with, hello wind, love you, the primordial being of the wind, because the wind, in my opinion, existed long before the earth got here. I know that it's like physically incarnated, but that's a primordial being. That's the elements, primordial beings. That is crazy to me. So we've got the wind and this like swift, quick movement of motion. Okay, there's a lot of possibility, a lot of room for things to change. That happening, you could talk to the wind, talk to the air. Hey, I've noticed that this is happening. First, gratitude, reverence, and love to you, the wind. Gratitude, reverence, and love to you, the air. Also, I've noticed that these things are happening in my world. I've noticed that I've primally adapted to this person. I don't necessarily agree with it. I don't really want to be in exchange with them anymore. That's a lot of what Pluto retrograde is about. I need to get unbound from this, and I need this other contract to come in. That's the other part. I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous episode, but I'm going to bring it up right now. I'm pretty sure I did. We don't just get out of one binding and then go into nothing. That is called death, okay? That's called death. There's always going to be another thing that we're bound up in. So even death, technically, we're still bound up to something, but, you know, there's a lot of other conversations about that we could have. But moving on, okay? A lot of subcategories of magic coming up today. Good goodness. So you could talk to the wind, okay? One of the things to be specific about, if you're talking to the wind and asking for things to be, you know, undone, if you've noticed things, you need help with things. Okay, well, yeah, ask for that to be unbound. What do you want to do then? Ask for something new to come through. Ask for another binding, because with Pluto's like, well, we're not just going to put you into nothing. Okay, so give us something else. Give us something else. Have us bind you up in something different then. What else do you want to do? And this is also a really good, what I would call target practice, okay? When we look at like the skills of battle strategy and tactic stuff with magic, this is a good target practice, because if you're getting out of one binding and you say, I really want to go do this other thing over here, Pluto's kind of tricky sometimes. Hello. We know. Pluto's a little bit tricky. Pluto likes to be a little schemy, likes to move things around, okay, in ways that maybe we don't agree with all the time. And it is what it is. Pluto knows the secrets that we don't, okay? Thanks, Pluto. That's a lot of responsibility. So it is. That's a lot of responsibility. If I don't need to know it, I don't need to know it, and that's all right. So if you're getting out of one thing, what do you want to get into instead? If you're getting out of a relationship, what do you want to be in instead? It doesn't even need to be another relationship. Granted, you're going to have a relationship with, you know, whatever it is you're asking to be bound up to, but it might not be another person. Maybe you want more room for yourself. Maybe you want more time. Maybe you want more of a hobby or an activity, or there could, you know, it's a replacement sort of essence. So to be replaced, you know, a placement in spirit, to be replaced. So that's one of the ways that this magic is going to work. Talk to the wind, ask it for help if you need to. And one of the other things that is going to be super, super interesting, however you might decide to do this, is making offerings to the wind. Oh, there's so many different ways you could get creative with this. Oh, there's so many different things that you could do. Oh, it's so cool. It's so, so cool. You could, if you wanted to, like smoke and fire and like, you know, burning things. That's great. Keeping in mind that it does take air to keep the fire fed. So, you know, there is going to be that to it as well. So a process of transformation more than likely is going to be involved if that's the offering that you make. You could dance. You could breathe. I'm doing this breath work right now as an offering to, you know, the wind, to the air. Okay, beautiful. It could be that you sing, you know, you got a fan you want to bring out. There's a lot of different ways. You could dedicate, you know, your AC unit in your house to this magic for a certain period of time if you wanted to, or just keep it going. You know, there's a lot of work that you could do with like the appliances in your home. If you got air filters or a filtration system where you live, there's that could be applicable to it as well. You could do it with your car. Like you could say you know, with the wind systems in the car, like, you know, AC, heat, that sort of thing. When the windows are down, there's different air. And, you know, I'm driving this car right now, I'm creating wind. So I'm going to offer that wind to the wind. That's That's my offering. But making those offerings, one of the things about offerings, and this is going to be more Neptune, Pisces, 12th house related, sacrifices, offerings, literally an offer ring, right? If you offer something, I'm going to offer this. It becomes a ring. There's going to be a return. So if you're offering those things to the wind, to the air, then the wind is going to return something to you. Okay. The wind with Pluto retrograde right now, and it's going to depend on your placements in your chart. I guess that's true. Like if you have a Pluto retrograde in your chart, there's going to be new life that comes through when Pluto is retrograding. It's going to be kind of more of the main focus, and you're able to kind of move on a little bit. If you have any of your rulers of Pluto in your chart, if those are retrograde, also new life coming through will be applicable during a Pluto retrograde. So just kind of pay attention to that and the directionality. Like, are you moving forward or are you moving backwards naturally with that? And then looking at the retrogrades, like, for example, I have Saturn retrograde in my chart, and when Saturn retrogrades, I'm moving on. We're doing new stuff. I'm not going back and reconsidering the order. I've already done that. I've been doing it actually, and now I get to move on. So same thing goes for other retrogrades too, when we're looking at, you know, the placements in our chart versus what's happening in the transits. And again, if you look at kind of the rulers of those or the indirect energies around it, that can help to tell you some different influences. I like to look at, as a Scorpio who loves secrets, I like to look at the indirect rulers. I find that it's really, really helpful. So for example, if you have Pluto in Libra, if you're a part of that generation, then you're looking at Venus. If you have a Venus retrograde, but Pluto is direct, you're still going to have some new life coming in during a Pluto retrograde, even though your Pluto is direct. So looking at, you know, those indirect spaces. And then what rules your Venus? You could look at that too. Is that retrograde? Is that direct? Okay. Venus retrogrades in the chart are in like a personal chart are a little bit more rare, but it is as it is. It is as it is. So looking at those. Another part of Pluto retrogrades that I thoroughly enjoy is getting out of partnership crossings. Pluto rules the underworld and our reproductive organs, which means during Pluto retrograde, if you need to do an uncrossing at this time to get out previous partners, it's the time to do it. Get it out. Get them gone. I would like to move on. You know what I mean? So, and one of the things that I've learned, and maybe this is because I'm Saturn and Pluto, like Scorpio ruled. So this might just be a personal thing, so discern for yourself. But one of the things I've learned through the years is that usually there's always going to be remnants of a situation. There's always going to be something you can learn from it or something you can look back on. So you don't, you know, like don't go in for the overkill unless you feel like you need to. But, yeah, it's something to learn about if you find that interesting. I find it interesting. As a Scorpio, I love it. I love learning about that kind of stuff. Yeah. The other thing I was going to talk about too in this episode is that this sort of magic is not the work of a miracle. Sometimes we are like practicing and we're like, we need this big thing to happen. We need this big thing to you know, big right now, miracle. This is not necessarily the work of miracles. Now, could it be the right place, the right moment, the right time, the wind comes through and knocks something down for you to pick up? Yeah, for sure. But this is going to be especially, the reason I say this is because I know that there are so many different levels of practitioners who listen to the work that I put out on the internet, and for especially people who are not familiar with the primordial beings, okay? Especially for people who are not familiar with them and you're just getting introduced to them, it's not in your favor to be like, I need this done and I need it done within this time frame, and I need it. No, the primordial beings are very old and they don't work like that for the most part. They don't work like that. They're gonna say, oh, you think so, little ant? You think you know what time you need this done in? You think you know? Oh, okay, well let's have it take a little bit longer then. Let's have it take a little bit longer then. This is not the work of a miracle. This is not us asking for, you know, out of like a place of desperation or a place of, no. The primordial beings are very serious. I kind of brought that up earlier. They're very serious. Let's talk a little bit more about them. Very serious. They're very old. And for example, okay, because I make a lot of offerings in my practice. So I'll tell you a story. I was putting out offerings on a table for the spirits, right? And I was calling. There's sometimes where I call in the Calvary, okay? I don't know if I want to call it that, but I call in a lot of them, okay? There's sometimes where I have everybody's there, not everybody, but everybody, that's a lot, but there's a lot. You know, like between 10 to 30 different spirits that I have on the altar at once sometimes. just because that's how I practice. And so it was one of those times where I was like, well, calling it in. I'm calling it in, you know, here's the offerings, and that's what it is. So I remember I put the offerings out, and one of the spirits who I have on my altar pretty frequently, they're like jolly most of the time. They get serious when I need like help with healing, or like my heart is hurting and like I need the serious kind of tone. But for the most part, they're a pretty jolly spirit. Pretty happy spirit, you know, happy-go-lucky, kind of like it is. And I remember putting that primordial beings offering on the altar after I had put that more jolly spirits offering on the altar, and that more jolly spirit immediately tightened up and was like, oh, well, I gotta sit up. We got the big guys at the table right now, so let me be serious about it. Very much so. So the primordial beings, they come in, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal when they come in, and it's a big deal when they show up. The other thing to know about primordial beings and primordial magic, oh gosh, I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot. What else do we need to talk about? Primordial beings and primordial magic. My relationship to at least one of the primordial beings, because there's different primordial beings. There's the primordial mothers, there's the primordial fathers, there's just primordial beings, generally speaking, gender non-included. Not to be alluded to, just not included. And so the genderless, okay? So those primordial beings, they're very different. Primordial beings are very different. Like, my experience with not every single primordial being, but there is one specific primordial being who's in my practice that whenever they're around, I feel like a kid. And it has taken me a while to have the discernment of, this is not my inner child. This is a very, very old, very, very serious being who's coming in to be creative and be willful with me. And simultaneously, it invokes that childlike energy because there aren't any rules. There are no rules. It is just there to, you know, play and create and have fun. And it is there to, you know, invent some things, bring new order. And it's also, honestly, a little bit intimidating whenever they show up, because I know that new order is becoming created. I know that new order is coming in. Oh, thank God. Love you. Love you. Love you, Ymir. Love you. Thank you for being here. Love you. I really, really do. I love you. Thank you for coming through. So, that's so true. So good. Okay, thanks, Ymir. I love you. Oh, thanks, all thumbs up. I love you too. When they come in and they get creative, right? I can tell that it's like childlike energy for me, but it's like old. It's old. It's very different, because it becomes very like, you hear me talk in rhymes pretty frequently, and like that is just a part of my magic. But when the primordial beings come to sit with me, it's very like, how do I explain this? Sometimes I feel a little crazy, to be honest with you. This is not my normal self. This is not my normal self. This is not how I normally function. This is not me. I mean, it is me, you know, but this is not me. This is different. This is old. This is different. And so it is, like I said, it's a little intimidating, because I know when they come in, there's going to be new order that's created. And the order that's created, I don't know about it yet. I just know that being is there to set some new stuff up. They're there to help me create. They're there to help me bring in some new order. But what we're doing together, how we're creating together, I don't understand the new order that's coming in yet. I understand it's true that there is going to be new order. I understand what we're doing in the moment. And this is one of the reasons too that I will always recommend studying order when it comes to magical practices. Because if you're sitting with a primordial being and you understand, oh, well, this is how I feel about this part of the creative process, and you just are aware of kind of like the marker points, you know. There's one time a primordial being came in, and I was working on kind of like a crafty project. I don't do that too often these days, but I was working on a crafty project, and they came in and sat with me, and I was like, okay, well, here we go. You know, thanks for being here. So grateful you're here. And they came and sat with me, and we got creative about stuff. And I was noticing kind of like, okay, this is this, and this is this, and I can point out, you know, what is what. And the other thing about the primordial beings is I don't always remember. Memory kind of like, it's not always there. so it's important within, because you know, when you get into a creative process or you get into doing something that is like really creative, it's like knitting. Even if you're doing the same pattern over and over and over and over and over again, you don't always necessarily remember 10 rows ago what you were thinking about, you know? So one of the things about Aquarius and looking at the order of the Magick, oh, I had this thought, or I'm thinking about this, or this happened, and I know that that's important. I know that piece of the puzzle or that piece of the creation was important. There's probably going to be order that comes out of that then, as the magical standpoint of Aquarius works. As the other reason that is the inventor is because when you get creative, things happen, and oopsie, that's new. Didn't mean to do that, but here we are. That's what it is. So that's another part of the inventor of Aquarius. Sometimes the inventor is very like stern, very serious, very dedicated, right? Sometimes the inventor with the stern, serious, dedicated gets a little creative. Let's have a little fun. Let's do things a little bit differently. Okay, the new thing will probably come through when you do that. It's a little weird. It's a little bit out there, you know, but it is as it is. So yeah, strange. Okay, let me rearrange. We're gonna look at some of these notes. Oh, that's what I was saying. This is not the work of miracles, right? Because those beings are like super, super old. So just like revere that to them, you're like a tiny little dust particle ant on the earth. And think about how big we are compared to ants. You know, it's pretty easy to squish them. Oh, it's pretty easy to squish them. So not saying you're gonna get squished, that's not what I'm saying, but just, you know, with the relevance of size and the comparison, if we're gonna compare ourselves to those primordial beings, they're ginormous. They're bigger than giant. They're like an incomprehensible size. So just, you know, realize as you're talking to them, who you're talking to, you know. Have a serious tone about it. If you need to, have fun with it also. Like it depends on the primordial being that you're speaking with and kind of how you're introducing yourself to them or talking with them. For people who work with primordial beings, you know what's up already. You already know. It's different. If you're someone who works with like altar magic and you have gods, deities, spirits who are in your practice, like you know the primordial beings are a little bit different than that. The gods are strange for sure. They're more orderly, they're more concise, they have more like personified things to do and to say, and the primordial beings are really hard to personify. They're really hard to make into like something that we can comprehend. So just, you know, the spirits are not necessarily a friend. They might be friendly, but they're not a friend. They're the spirits. They're the spirits. So just, you know, with your reverence of that nature, I would say proceed with caution, but it's not necessarily about being cautionary. It's just about being brave. That's really what it is. Like if you're going to do it, sit in the bravery of it. You know, I am ready for this. I am going to speak to them because you know what? I love the wind, and I am grateful to nurture this relationship that I have with the air and the wind and the primordial beings that I've done some research on and been introduced to theologically or philosophically, and I think I'm ready for this. So something to think about before you step into it. Obviously, everybody has a relationship with the air and the wind. We need it to live. We need it to live. I guess the primordial beings, where I'm like, maybe do some research or look into it a little bit more, is like there's within the structure of practice that I keep, there's a lot of Norse spirits around. So there's a lot of the primal beings, the primordial beings that I sit with are from that Norse structure. So, you know, research on that, kind of relating to also like the story of Uranus and Saturn, how Uranus is the parent of Saturn, and Saturn is like already really serious. You know, think about how serious and hard Saturn can be sometimes. It's very like get it done, learn the lesson. You don't learn the lesson, you don't get to move on. So, oh boy, love you Saturn, and also oh boy, so the parent of that. What created that seriousness? You know what I mean? Who created that seriousness? That's a little crazy to think about. But yeah, just let me not speak on it over and over and over and over again, but just, you know, the reference of it. Okay, cool. What else do we need to talk about? I guess now that we're kind of closer to the end, let's step into more of like the Coven related magic for this. So this is going to be, I'm going to put, I know I said I'm going to put the update for the Coven on the Substack for this podcast. And that's still going to be a thing, but I want to give some updates here for the Coven as well. Moving on, we're going to have more consistency of practice together. If you do want to practice with us, you definitely don't have to do everything. Like, it's about to be kind of a lot. I'm not going to lie to you. Spirit's been like, you got to get ready, get yourself ready, get them ready. We got to get ready. Okay, so there's going to be some training regiment stuff that we're doing together. Again, nothing is required. Nothing is required. If you just want to do some of the workings, you don't want to do all of them, you don't want to come to the training, it doesn't, honestly, to me, what you put into is what you get out. That's how magic works. So, you know, in my opinion, as long as you continue to practice for you, I don't care if you show up to where I'm at or not. Just keep practicing for yourself. You know, I just happen to be a person who's offering some space and some resources and some order and some structure and some cover with the time that we're in with me and my spirits. So if you want to join, beautiful. And if you don't, also beautiful. You know, do as you feel that you need to. That's what we're here for. So let me go into it again though. The Coven, right? So we're gonna start doing weekly trainings together, and the weekly trainings are gonna be live streams. They're gonna be more based on. I'm gonna get to the Coven magic for this episode also, but I just want to give kind of a preface, some pre-information. So we're gonna start doing weekly trainings together because Spirit's been really serious with me ever since we did the honoring of the goddess after that new moon in Aquarius work. The new moon in Aquarius, to be rooted in liberation, free and truth. Ever since we did that work, and then we honored the goddess at the end of that moon cycle with the balsamic moon in Aquarius back several months ago, which also, we're talking about Pluto and Aquarius in this episode. Okay, shout out. The goddess came through and was like, you gotta get ready. So I've got homework that I've been working on. We're expecting some shifts to come here in the semi-near future. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen, but I do know that Spirit has confirmed it multiple times, and I've been moving semi-differently, sort of differently, to make sure that I can prepare myself and that I can still be of service to you and the other people who decide to practice with us. So there's going to be weekly trainings that start, again, not required, but they're going to be there as a resource. They're going to be live streams on my TikTok and my Substack, probably. I still have to figure out live streaming on Substack, but as of right now, it sounds like that's going to be the plan. And that way, I'm pretty sure Substack records those live streams. I could be wrong about that. Again, got to do a little bit more research, but as of right now, that's going to be the two places. I was doing live streams on YouTube at one point, but there was, okay, let's not speak it again. There was a lot of trolls in the comments, and it was really difficult to like filter all of that while simultaneously like talking to people and doing readings. So we're going to take a step back from YouTube live streams for a little bit, just because not for me. I'm not about that. That's cool. Keep it off my page. Thanks so much. So, but yeah, there's going to be weekly trainings. And then when these podcast episodes come out, there's going to be kind of the option. This is going to be more casual Coven magic. This is going to be more casual. The trainings are going to be, there's kind of 3 different areas that we're going to be working in. Kind of 4. Okay. So let's talk about it then. One of them is going to be the trainings weekly. And that, again, not required. Would love if you came and sat with us. We're going to talk a little bit about battle magic, how to prepare your practice, how to make sure that you're protected in the spirit, like just things about spiritual warfare. That's been kind of the topic and the theme. Look at what is happening in the world right now, right? So having the training that I've been through, Spirit is making sure that, you know, I'm able to bring to people what is needed to be brought when it comes to spiritual warfare. I don't know everything, but I do know quite a few things. So what I can offer will be there. When it comes to the podcast and the Coven kind of work that is within the podcast, those updates are going to be, like I said, a little bit more casual. And the reason that we're going to have multiple layers of things is because if we, as a Coven, one of the things that happens is we bind our powers together, right? And when we bind our powers together, we become stronger. That's a part of the work of a Coven, is like we're calling on multiple witches at a time. We're calling on our own power together. Like it's a beautiful, beautiful, very, very powerful thing to do. And so if we have, one of the things that this Coven is really set up to do is make sure that the integrity of personal practices can still be a thing. We all sit with different spirits. We all practice in different ways. We all also have different priorities in life. Like we're all different people, we come from different places. There's people from literally all across the world who practice in the Coven, which is really crazy to me. That's crazy, you guys. That's crazy. That's really crazy. That's really, really crazy that there's people from multiple different continents and multiple different nations. That's crazy. Spirit, what are you doing? That's crazy. So, so with that in mind, bearing that in mind, we all have different priorities and we all have different practices. We live different lifestyles. We're bound to the governments in different ways. We're bound to our ancestors in different ways. Like we're just different people, and that's okay. So one of the things with more casual practices of magic, and we're going to go over the podcast Pluto Retrograde stuff here in a moment, but just to kind of explain the difference, having that more casual binding up of things is like, okay, even it would be like us coming together to have like a casual meal out, or being able to come together and have like just a casual gathering, you know, like we're not there to do anything serious yet. The fact that we're coming together is still serious in my opinion, but like it's not going to be anything that's like we're not attacking anything or we're not defending anything. Like it's not going to be the quote unquote more urgent work, but it is going to be there to make sure that we can remain connected, stay continually bound together so that our powers are stronger and closer to one another. So the casual magic still going to be, in my opinion, is still important, but you definitely don't have to, again, practice the casual magic, but there is going to be the option to bring more of a casual perspective to the practice in the Coven moving forward, and that's going to be the stuff that's more connected to the podcast. We're also going to have, moving forward, some more works that come out with the Coven, and I've been debating, honestly, if you want to leave a comment and let me know what you think about it, I would love to hear from you, because the most previous work that I put out for the Coven, I didn't put it on the podcast. I thought about putting it on the podcast, and I was like, I think this could be a good entrance, but I hadn't come and fully like introduced the difference of the Coven work and how we'll be moving forward together. So if you're interested in having the more kind of like direct workings, the ones that would be a little bit more urgent, the ones where spirit will put a calling on me and I sit with it, learn about it, process it, and then bring it out for you, out for us, really, you know, not just one of us, it is all of us. So, yeah. So if you're interested in those coming out on the podcast, I think that it is a good idea, but I also don't want to interrupt our normally scheduled content. So if you have opinions on that, or you would like to, you know, throw your 2 cents into the pot, I love to hear about it and what you think. But there are going to be times where it's like more direct workings that come out on my social pages that have to do with just kind of the urgency of things that are moving in the world. The most previous one that we did was the offering of water to justice. And what was it? Justice, free, and truth? Justice, free, and truth. Yeah, the offering of the water, it was a 3-day working offering of water to justice, free, and truth. It was time. So it was time, and I'm thankful that we did that work together. So there'll be more urgent workings that come out in that essence. And then the fourth kind of layer to Coven stuff moving forward, if you're on the group chat, okay, if you're on the group chat, then this is gonna be that space, that group chat space, again, linked down below. This is gonna be the space where we're working together on a more sort of like immediate urgency basis. Spirit has let me know moving forward that there could be some things that come up where we're gonna kind of need each other on a more immediate basis, and it's going to make sense for it to kind of only go out through that channel rather than it going out through a blast on basically all of my pages. So, you know, offerings in the moment to kind of like strengthen things or to bring things together, with that to me is still a little bit shielded. I can't see all of it right now, but I do know that that could be something that comes up here in the near future. So that's going to be probably a part of what we're doing together, if you would so choose to lend a hand in those situations. Those would be definitely more of like those would be the most emergent, most urgent sort of situations on a spiritual level. It might not be necessarily connected. I mean, it is going to be connected to society and kind of what's going on, but it'll be just a little bit different in that lens of things. So moving forward, that's going to be kind of the structure of how the Coven is working. I'm really looking forward to the training days that we're going to have together. Bring questions, okay? There's certain things we're going to be doing in the training. We're going to be making offerings weekly, and sort of sitting with the spirits on a specific level, which am really excited about. We're going to sit, we're going to learn, we're going to earn, we're going to burn. Cool, good. So, well, burn the offerings, not necessarily burn ourselves, thankfully. I'm grateful for that. So with that in mind, okay, we're gonna plug that structure in, and again, the details written will be in the Substack for this week, this episode, really. But going on with the more casual sort of magic. So if all the stuff that we just talked about, the primordial beings, talking to the wind, if there's like a specific work that you want done and you feel like, you know what, this would make sense that other people would need to receive this or revere this, or like it makes sense, like really sit with your integrity, really sit with your integrity and your honor, and like make a mindful decision about it. Don't just, how do I say this? Don't just do it because it sounds fun. That's going to be my precautionary note on this one. Don't just do it because it sounds fun to tie it to the Coven. Like if you really feel like this is going to be of benefit, or like you want to be able to bring it into the space, it's definitely going to be like, would you be comfortable kind of like talking about this work with other people? And like, would you want other people to be maybe a little bit more involved? Or would you feel like, do you look around and see other people kind of going through similar things? So there's going to be an opening. So let me see. So say that we're going to use offering to the wind as an example. Say that you want to offer something to the wind, right? And you want that to be tied to the Coven, okay? You want it to be tied to the Coven. You would say to yourself, or out loud, either one works for me, and will work, depends on what you're doing, depends on if you want it to be spoken out loud or spoken internal. Spoken internal is going to be, there's probably going to be answers that come internally. Spoken out loud, there's probably going to be more words that are spoken between you and other people, or between you and the spirits. So you're going to say, the order of this work is bound, encompassing love, truth, free, honor, glory, elevation, gratitude, reverence, justice, magic, spirit, liberation, free, and love, to the Coven, a guild under the highest spirit, and so it is. And that's how you open it. And then when you're done with the work, I close and seal this work in order. And so it is. Very easy, very simple. If you've noticed, if you've been practicing with us for a while, I like easy and simple. If we get complicated, it's for a reason and a purpose. And you know what? I'm not against getting complicated, but especially starting to practice with each other, having things be simple and easy. That's where we're at right now. So that's going to be the opening and the closing. If you wanted to, give an offering of the wind, to the Coven, offering of the winds to the winds, and have it be with the Coven. It's going to be more on the offering side of things. If you feel like there's a work that you need done, and like the personal things that could be bound or unbound, if it has to do with the work that we've already done together, or you feel intuitively inclined to bring it into the Coven space with those verbiages and spell works, then definitely, if you're there, you're there. That's what it is. That's what it is. So, because the way that I have the order in the Coven set up is like, if it's not supposed to be there, Spirit's not going to let it be there. That's just like what it is. So even if you do it and it doesn't end up sticking, okay, well then probably it was just for you, and that's all right. So yeah, no hard feelings is really what I mean by that. Unless you like willfully, illfully intend to tie something icky yucky. But Spirit's gonna let me know about that too. So you know what? Just do what you do. And if I gotta handle something, I'll handle it. That's how my world works. So it is as it is. Okay. So, but just use your judgment and your discernment on the front end of things. Is this something I need for myself? Is this something that, I'm going to be intentionally kind of like practicing with other people? Again, giving an offering of the wind to the Coven, and like to giving an offering to the wind for the Coven's benefit, if you wanted to do that. It's kind of up to you on how, again, you would want to move forward with it. This, again, is the more casual side. This is going to be more, this is a casual ride of things, right? And if we're looking at, because one of the things I do within spiritual practice is spiritual hierarchy. So if we have casualness as a base ground, okay, we can build on it. So this is also just to kind of help keep things kind of charged up together and all that good stuff. So that's going to be the coven work for the end. We've got offerings of the wind, and if you want to come into the group chat, let us know you did it. I love hearing about that kind of stuff. It helps me be more aware of kind of like what's going on and what we can expect. Sometimes spirit brings me messages when people talk about things. So yeah, it helps me direct also where we're going to go, how we're going to get there. And yeah, it's pretty good, honestly. The coven work has been really interesting. What a different chapter. What a different chapter, you know? Different chapter for me, different chapter for we, different chapter. It's been a different chapter. And I'm honestly really grateful for the different chapter. I'm really, really grateful for the different chapter. And I'm looking forward to what the different chapter is going to bring through to us. So, yeah. That's kind of it for this episode, to be honest, you guys. It was kind of a longer one, but I'm all right with that. I'm all right with that. So, gratitude, reverence, and love to you. Keep up the brew. Keep doing what you do. You're going to hear from me more often, more soon. And I know I said that in the last episode and then I completely disappeared. I kind of forgot that I had vacation planned and that I had to like prepare for it and then like come back and decompress from being, it was just a lot. And really, honestly, the previous like 4 months have been a lot. We're not going to get too deep into that, but the previous 4 months have been a lot. So thanks for being patient with me, because I've been going through a lot of stuff for the previous probably like 5 years of my life that it's just been really hard. And I started unpacking all of that. And that has also been a lot, is where I was going with that. That's what's been a lot these days. So there's nothing really going wrong or that is hard right now, but the healing work is a thing. Having gone through what I've been through, the unpacking work is a lot. So just thank you for your patience, because being a human sometimes is really hard. And knowing that I have a space to come to, dear goodness, I might cry again. Knowing I have a space to come to where I can talk about the magic and what's going on in the spirit still, even with, unpacking the things that have happened, I'm really grateful for that too. So thank you for helping me cultivate the space and being here with me. But yeah. That's going to be it for today. So keep up the brew that you do. I will too. That's true. And I'll talk to you soon.